Nothing really prepares you for how detailed and sharp large format is. You hear about it all the time and you see pictures that other people have taken, but it's not the same as seeing the scans of your own images that you've taken and realizing, wow, I can actually do this. This camera really works and I can actually make a picture with it. I learned that you don't need to master 35mm or medium format before starting large format. I still make a lot of mistakes when I shoot 35mm film. I miss focus a lot, I often get exposure wrong, either under or overexposing way too much, so I was worried that I wasn't ready for large format photography. But once I started using the Intrepid, I found that because I had to really pay attention to my exposure settings, the details of the scene, and I had to meticulously follow a dozen of different steps in order to expose a single image, I realized that I am capable of taking in-focus pictures that are properly exposed. I just needed to slow down more and to be more mindful of what I'm doing instead of rushing the process. I chose to make the leap to large format because I wanted to slow down and I wanted to be more restricted. I wanted to try macro photography because I wanted to pay more attention to mundane, everyday details and objects that I tend to overlook, like wrinkles in fabric or dust on a surface that helps bring an image to life. I didn't want to rely on interesting locations to make interesting images. On the right, you can see the rough texture of the glass that the light is reflecting off of here on this glass vase. And I'm not sure if it's because I shot with Portra 800 or if it's because of the rodent stock lens that I use, but the colors in these images are really sharp and saturated. And you can see the detail again here. If you look on the top left, you can see the rough texture of the glass that the light is reflecting off of. The shallow depth of field that's possible with large format helps emphasize the separation between the foreground and background layers of these preserved stems and petals. My favorite image so far is this image of a succulent. It's a pretty generic looking succulent, but at a 1:1 magnification, it looks gigantic compared to its size in real life. And when you look closely, you're able to see the pores and the ridges on each individual petal, and the depth of the image just makes the petals look so juicy and hyper-realistic. I'm not usually one for pixel peeping, and I don't really need high-resolution images. So I didn't get into large format because of the level of detail it gives you, even if it is impressive, but I wanted to try large format because of the movements that you can do with it. And that's why I got the Intrepid. The Intrepid isn't the cheapest 4x5 camera they can get out there. You can get press cameras like the Graflex cameras, which often come with a lens and are far cheaper and often have a lot more character and history to them. But eventually I chose the Intrepid because of its lightweight and because of all the movements they can do with it. Large format allows you to manipulate your plane of focus by shifting and tilting the lens, And the magnification factor of large format means that you're able to get shallower depth of fields than with a medium format camera. The ground glass is a lot darker than I expected, but because of the sheer size of the ground glass, it's just mesmerizing to look through. The cost of a single 4x5 sheet film can range between $5 to $10, and that's not including developing and scanning. So I decided to use a 6x7 Horseman rollback, which would allow me to shoot 10 images on a 120 film roll. The downside of this is that when I compose, I can't use the full frame of the ground glass. This is because using a 120 film rollback means that a 4x5 image is cropped down to a 6x7 image. So I had to create a mask that outlines the area on the 4x5 frame that would be exposed. I haven't taken the Intrepid outside the house yet. I've only been shooting objects and knickknacks around the house for practice. And again, this was intentional. I wanted to document everyday objects that make up my environment instead of chasing after interesting locations. Large format isn't something that I'll shoot often, but it is something that I know that I'll come back to every now and then when I want to feel excited and inspired by the photography process.